"Stop the wedding! Don't marry her!" A stranger burst into the ceremony right in the middle of my daughter's wedding. Dressed in a white dress, she turned out to be the groom's mistress. The couple, abandoning their vows, walked away hand in hand, as if they were in a scene from an old movie. But this was real life, and what they did was a blatant affair. My daughter left behind was so devastated she considered ending her life. If I had been a moment later, I would have lost her forever. I vowed to bring them to ruin. I'm Alea, 56 years old. While people my age are starting to think about retirement, I still plan to work with enthusiasm. My husband passed away early, so I raised my daughter Beatrice on my own. Beatrice is now 28, and I've been feeling sentimental watching her prepare for her wedding. Her fiancé, Bert, is a successful salesman. They met when Beatrice was a receptionist at one of Bert's major clients. She quit her job to become a housewife at Bert's request. "Quitting your job for marriage isn't trendy these days," she said, but she looked happy. Finally, the wedding day arrived. The ceremony was going smoothly, with everyone, including the parents, feeling nervous but excited. Since Beatrice doesn't have a father, I walked her down the aisle. I was thrilled when she asked me, but it was hard to hold back tears as memories flooded back. Just as the couple was about to say their vows, a loud voice interrupted. "Wait a minute!" We all turned to see the woman in the white dress standing at the entrance. The guests are taken aback by the intrusion of a stranger. I was also surprised and couldn't react. Beatrice muttered, "Maya." Apparently she knew her. "Don't marry her!" Maya shouted again. Beatrice looked at Bert, confused but also a bit angry. "Bert, what's going on? You said you broke up with Maya, that it was a one-time mistake. That's why I forgave you."
"Sorry, I realize I can't be without Maya. She loves me enough to chase after me like this. I love her too."
"What are you saying?" From their conversation, it was clear Maya was Bert's past mistress. Beatrice had forgiven him, thinking they had broken up, but it seemed their affair had continued behind her back.
"If you love me, you'll wish me happiness,"
Bert said. "We're destined to be together. Don't get in our way, Beatrice." The two of them say lines that are so insane that it makes you think that they are probably drunk on forbidden love. Maya added, tears in her eyes. The two of them, lost in their forbidden love, left Beatrice behind and walked away. Days have passed since the wedding was called off. Beatrice had been locked in her room, depressed. My anger towards Bert and his mistress hasn't subsided. The only silver lining is that the marriage wasn't legally finalized, so Beatrice doesn't have a divorce on her record. But even after a week, she hasn't improved. She's not eating, and she looks constantly down. I'm really worried. So, to lift Beatrice's spirits even a little, I left work early and bought her favorite fruits on my way home. "I'm back. Beatrice? Are you here?" The house was eerily quiet, which made me uneasy. When I stepped into the kitchen, I found Beatrice on the floor, bleeding. A knife lay near her. "Beatrice, hold on! Beatrice!" She was still breathing but unconscious. I was frantic. I had no idea what had happened or why Beatrice was in this state. I quickly administered first aid and called an ambulance. I also called the police, thinking she might have encountered a robber. When the doctor said,
"She's going to be okay, thanks to your quick first aid,"
I felt so relieved I almost collapsed. I was grateful for the medical staff's timely intervention. I thought all that was left was for the police to catch whoever had hurt Beatrice. But when she regained consciousness, she said, "Send the police away." "What are you talking about? If you were involved in an incident, we need to report it for your safety." "No, Mom. I did this to myself." "What?" I couldn't believe my ears. But Beatrice's downcast, tearful eyes told me she wasn't joking. "I was betrayed by Bert, even though we were about to get married. I felt pathetic for not realizing it." "But you did nothing wrong, Beatrice." "I know, but I quit my job, remember? Bert wanted me to be a housewife." Beatrice had let that man disrupt her life plans. Another reason I couldn't forgive him. Tears finally spilled from her eyes. "I don't know what to do now. I hate being a burden to you, Mom." "You're not a burden. You're my precious daughter." My heart ached seeing Beatrice unable to stop crying. My anger towards her fiancé and his mistress intensified. I had no intention of forgiving them, and now my resolve was stronger. Even if they cry and apologize, I will never forgive them. I had made up my mind, but I didn't show it for now and told Beatrice as gently as I could, "Promise me you'll never do something like this again. Beatrice, I don't mind taking care of you, but I can't bear the thought of losing you forever." Beatrice nodded slightly. "And you don't have to suffer anymore, because their lives are about to be over." Beatrice tilted her head, puzzled. I smiled at her. 3 days later, I was in a conference room at the company where Beatrice used to work. Bert and his boss, the sales manager, were about to arrive. "Today, I'll settle this. Be prepared." The sky outside the window was clear and uplifting. It felt like even the sky was cheering me on. Soon, Bert and the sales manager entered the room.
"What? Why are you here?"
Bert was shocked to see me, which was understandable. He had been summoned by an important client for an important discussion, only to find me there.
"Hey, don't be rude." "But boss, she's an outsider."
The sales manager scolded Bert, who looked increasingly confused.
"An outsider, you say? This person is?"
"It's fine, let's get to the point. Please have a seat." I interrupted the sales manager and took a seat at the conference table, gesturing for the two men to sit across from me. "I'm the one who called both of you here today." Bert looked stunned, but I ignored him and began explaining the situation to the sales manager. "You may not be aware, but Bert recently had a wedding. He only invited family and friends, so no one at your company would know, but he abandoned my daughter at their wedding and ran off." The sales manager looked surprised. Bert started to protest.
"Why are you bringing this up here?"
Ignoring Bert's interruption, I continued. He was having an affair, and he chose his mistress over my daughter right in the middle of their wedding.
"Hey, shut up."
Furthermore, my daughter quit her job to be a housewife, as Bert wanted. He ruined her career. The sales manager asked Bert,
"Is this true?" "Yes, but I chose the person I love. Why does this have to do with work? Don't meddle in my personal life."
Bert's face clearly showed his frustration. Love, you say? That's rich. If he loved someone else while engaged, he should have ended things properly. Otherwise, he's just a cheater. My daughter was left alone in front of many guests at the wedding and suffered greatly.
"You barged in here and spilled all this? What's your deal? This is business interference."
Bert was so focused on yelling at me, he didn't notice the sales manager's face turning pale. I gestured for the sales manager to hold off on scolding Bert. This is about business.
"What? How is?"
The real issue is this. I don't want to do business with someone who treated my daughter, Beatrice, like that. I want to terminate our contract.
"What authority do you have to—" "Wait, did you say daughter of the president?"
Bert seemed to finally grasp the situation and was stunned. The truth is, this company was left to me by my late husband, the former president. I took it over after his passing. I've worked hard to build the company, carrying on my husband's wishes. Neither Beatrice nor I had told Bert that she was the president's daughter, but it wasn't a secret. Many executives from our company were at the wedding. If Bert had been genuinely involved in planning the wedding, he would have noticed. His ignorance proved that he had no real interest in Beatrice. The executives who witnessed the fiasco at the wedding were also starting to question his behavior. That's why not just me, but all the executives have lost trust in you.
But that was private. Let's not mix business and personal matters, okay?
So anything goes in private? Bert clung to that argument, so I glared at him. Even a marriage is a kind of contract between two people. If someone who betrays that is in sales, how can we trust any contract with him? I sighed dramatically. Realizing he had no way out, Bert's face turned pale.
I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I beg you.
Bert quickly got off his chair and prostrated himself on the floor. But what meaning does an apology have when it's not out of guilt for Beatrice, but just a performance to save himself? I never intended to forgive him in the first place. We will terminate our contract with your company, and as long as he's there, we won't renew it.
What does that mean for my position?
I didn't even look at Bert as I made my declaration to the sales manager. Stunned, Bert must realize his days as a top salesperson are over. Besides, since that wedding fiasco, my team and I have been in talks with other companies. So cutting ties with Bert's company won't be an issue for us, but it will be a significant blow to them. I can easily imagine what will happen to Bert, who caused all this. Also, I had an investigation done on his mistress. Turns out she's not someone who would make him happy in the long run. By the way, I thought you should know. Her name is Maya, right? Did you know she doesn't work? Yet she seems to spend a lot of money and even has debts.
What? What are you talking about?
As I suspected, Bert knew nothing and looked shocked. Maya is with Bert because he has a stable income and is willing to spend it on her. She's after his money. If Bert loses his job, or even just sees a decrease in income, both will struggle financially. They're not the type to support each other through hard times, so a breakup is inevitable. And one more thing. Do you know that Maya is pregnant?
What? Really?
Bert looked up, surprised. Clearly, he didn't know. From his slightly happy expression, I could tell. Maya will probably tell you it's your child, but the truth is, even she doesn't know who the father is.
What do you mean? Another possible father?
She has too many possibilities, it seems. What was all that talk about destiny when she lured you away during Beatrice's wedding? She probably didn't want to let go of a man who gives her money.
You're lying.
For a moment, Bert looked stunned, but then suddenly changed his tune.
So, the only one who truly loves me is Beatrice? I'll get back with her. So, President, please continue the contract.
What are you talking about?
I realize the woman who truly matters to me is Beatrice. This was just a big lover's quarrel. If I marry Beatrice, everything will go back to normal. There's no need to terminate the contract, right?
I couldn't help but be amazed. Was he serious? I told you the reason I don't want to work with you is that I can't trust you. It's not because you're no longer my son-in-law. It's because of your actions.
But that was just a momentary lapse.
There are mistakes in life you can't undo. In reality, Beatrice was on the verge of a point of no return. Even now, thinking about that day gives me chills. If I hadn't come home early that day, I might never have seen my daughter again. And the cause of all this was Bert. From my attitude, he must have sensed that he had no chance of being accepted. He sat there trembling, his face pale. I felt no sympathy. How could I, when he had plunged Beatrice from the height of happiness into the depths of despair? In the end, Bert was moved to a department known as the dumping ground among employees. His salary was also significantly reduced. Beatrice, who had regained some of her spirit, found out she could claim damages even at the engagement stage, and did so from both Bird and the mistress. Since Bird is responsible for all the wedding costs, they both owe $80,000. But they had hardly saved anything and had to go into debt. As expected, they broke up. Beatrice is now completely over it. As for work, she says, "This is a good opportunity to become independent by working for another company," and is actively job hunting. "I'm supporting my daughter in every way I can."